I won't be talking tonight. It's big minutes. I know it's.
I'll speak for you, don't worry about it.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting of the Planning Commission to order on Tuesday, January 20th, 2026, our regular meeting time. Roll call by recording secretary. You know what?
Missing is Jean. Is that all I have to say?
Yeah.
There we go.
Jean told me she wasn't going to be able to come kind of at the last minute. I knew Ted was coming, so we were good. Consideration of any changes, additions, or removals to the agenda? Being there is none. Approval of minutes for December 16th, 2025.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I can. I wasn't here, but.
Oh, okay.
You just don't vote.
I'll
I
second.
can, yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oh, wait, no, I had a correction. That's what I said.
I don't know if you.
I did have one correction. It's the part with the 7-Eleven guy there, section 7. The second sentence, it says, he said that people from Proctorsville and Cavendish have a notion that we are like to old owners, and that is not a nice perception.
Wait a minute,
So it's on page 6,
sorry.
section 7,
6, section 7.
E, second sentence. He said that people from Proctorsville and Cavendish have a notion that we are like to old owners. I guess it's we are like the old owners?
The old.
Or we are the old owners? Is that
Why don't we
what
just say we are like, let's say the.
we are the old owners. And that's not a nice perception. There was one really small thing in the beginning, but I didn't even write it down. Does anybody else have anything? Okay, moving on. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as corrected. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on. Comments from citizens. Okay, maybe later.
Thank you.
Town zoning updates with Martha Harrison from Mark. Zoning overlay with tiered housing densities.
Zooming through right now, trying to find a good starting spot.
Oh, and we do have Kay here from Lease Solicos.
I did delete the group home. You have group homes exempt, so we talked about making that permitted. So I crossed that off, exemptions, and added it to each of the districts that has housing as a permitted use. Because if you have single-family homes, you also have to allow group homes in that district. So, but you didn't discuss, I don't think, which districts you want to put group homes with 9 or more, that accommodate 9 or more people.
I thought it was 8 or more.
8 or fewer
Okay.
is in all residential districts.
Okay, so 9 or more?
9 or more, yeah, and 8 or fewer is permitted. So 9 or more is conditional, but which districts?
I would think we would avoid the Lakes District, the Aquifer District. Are there any districts we would avoid for a group home with over 9 people? Plus it would be conditional anyway. You know, it'd have to go through the DRB.
So we don't know which district.
Which districts? Maybe RC1? RC2? Can you refresh our memories of just bring up the districts and we'll say yay or nay?
Yep.
Share your screen.
Share.
This is correct, because I couldn't, so we have.
Can I share?
Yeah. Because we you know, the new stuff.
Okay.
duplexes, like,
Sharing isn't turned on.
Or, apartments.
Why would you not have the Lake District? Because I know there's a couple that are duplexes.
No, this would be a group home with over 8 people in it.
Oh, okay.
9 or more
Yeah.
people in
Gotcha,
it.
gotcha.
I don't, do we want them in the Lakes District? I don't know, can we exclude them from the Lakes District? I just thought, I didn't see it
I'm
fitting.
just
but-
asking the question, what would be the
Yeah.
reason to exclude it?
Yeah, maybe there isn't a reason.
Because it's almost
I
a
don't-
little
yeah.
bit,
Go,
Discriminatory?
you're on track.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
That's the way I feel.
discriminatory.
But I was thinking aquifer just because it has so many different protections around it of like, are there any other like aquifer restrictions for how many people can be on, I don't know.
I mean,
3
I
acres?
guess my opinion would be, it should be all districts unless there's a compelling reason not to. Because
Yeah.
otherwise it becomes discriminatory,
Exactly.
right?
Not necessarily, I think that's why the state requires you to allow it for 8 or fewer in all districts.
Oh, okay. So it's,
so
so
you-
the question is, where would we allow 8 or more
Where
under
would you allow
conditional
9 or
zoning?
more?
9 or more.
Not, I meant 9 or more, I'm sorry.
You
Gotcha.
You don't automatically have to allow that in every district.
Gotcha.
Certainly wouldn't want to allow it in the industrial district, I
Yeah.
think, and Jack's, maybe not the mountains, because that's
That's its own, yeah.
its own, yeah.
And Jackson Gore is its own district.
That's mountain, right? Mountain district.
Well, no, it's a different district. There's a mountain
Okay.
district and it's the Jackson Gore district.
Right.
Martha, what's your opinion on there? Do you think there's certain districts that it may not be appropriate for?
Industrial.
I mean,
Besides industrial, maybe
yeah,
aquifer?
I mean, aquifer, municipal, probably not. And lakes, I mean, you want very small, limited development up there, so I would assume you wouldn't want that up there.
Well,
I think town residential is fine, or town RC1, RC2. It's probably fine in both of those.
again, playing devil's advocate for the Lake District, there are many homes out there, newer homes that are really large,
Yeah, like.
that would have more than 8
mansions.
people in them. So,
But that's not the definition of a group home, though.
It's a group home for, well,
yeah, I understand what it is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Is that like divided sky?
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what I was thinking, Design
Exactly.
Sky. How many people are there? Does anybody know?
Well, it's Fox Run,
Because
the
we
old
should-
Fox Run Inn, so there must be, I guess it depends on the time, but there's gonna be quite a few.
Have to consider septic capabilities also in the lakes, which is difficult as it is.
Yeah.
But that's why it would be conditional.
Right.
it's up to you.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm just being devil's advocate. I wouldn't want to just say no because it's the lake.
Yeah, and like you said, it's discriminatory. Okay, so right now we're sticking with
RC1,
RC1
RC2.
and R1 and R2 and R2D2. No, I'm just kidding.
So, town residential, RC1, RC2, and any others, or,
Town residential commercial.
yeah, RC1 and 2,
Yeah.
right.
Oh.
Just those 3, is that,
And R1,
is there R?
Yeah, you said R1 and R, is there an R2? R1 and
By
R2?
R1, do you mean town residential?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. So are we doing lake residential or not?
The other thing you didn't decide, while you're putting things into districts, was hotels. You discussed it, but you didn't make a decision about which districts can have hotels.
If any. In the town zoning, not the village zoning. Maybe you should wait till we have Jane here to discuss that. Let her weigh in.
JD.
Yeah.
Do
And
you
wait till
wanna
we have
hold
the
off
full
on that
board.
one?
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
all of the districts or just for that question?
Just for that question on hotels.
Okay.
This is a contentious issue, with me anyway.
So we've got RC1, RC2, town residential. Lake, yes or no?
No.
And then
I
I
don't-
also revised the sections on the purpose statements for RC1, RC2 in the industrial district, so
What district is Fox Run in? Is that RC1,
I don't,
Fox Run?
It looks like it, just from back here.
You definitely don't want to exclude them there, because there already is one.
Right.
Yeah, the beige, the pink there.
Yep.
So we're not allowing it in industrial, Jackson Gore, Mountain District, or Aquifer.
And municipal, you said
Or
too?
lakes, municipal. Yeah.
Municipal.
What do we decide on lakes?
That's what I'm asking.
What do you guys think?
Don't say no.
Don't say no.
I would say don't say no, and if it's
They're gonna-
conditional, they'll put the restrictions on.
They're gonna have,
Or say no, or
they're
they'll
gonna
say
have
no.
a bunch of restrictions anyway.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I
So
mean,
why-
so
Okay,
Why
so-
say no
We're saying yes to Lakes District,
if they,
Okay,
I don't-
got it.
That's-
with conditions.
Well,
So-
it would be conditions.
Yeah. it would
include the
be.
Lakes District. or
Yes.
the group.
Conditional, yeah.
So I also revised the purpose statement for RC1. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it.
Let's look that over. I'll read it. Town residential commercial is a mixed-use district. Small, locally owned businesses are encouraged in the town recreational RC district, which is primarily commercial with compatible residential development also allowed. Adequate water supply and wastewater treatment systems must be available to serve any proposed development. And that's it. That sounds concise.
Where will I find
Yeah. I can send you a screenshot
that?
of it.
I'm just gonna go section 460 and find the wording later. Or you can send it to me later.
Yeah, I can screenshot it.
Yep.
So you had talked about the one being more commercial than residential, and then two being more residential than commercial, so I tried to mirror that. In the purpose
Distinguish them.
statements. So there is
Oh, there it is.
RC2.
Okay, so that reads, town residential commercial is a mixed-use district prioritizing residential development, but allowing for compatible, small-scale commercial uses that,
Do,
that.
That support.
That
Support the
support is there, that
residential use.
support the residential character of the area. Portions of this district that are located along major highways, Route 10, Route 100 North and South, are subject to V-Trans access management program guidelines and must avoid strict commercial development patterns. So that's 100, but not 103. Why isn't 103 part of V-Trans?
Well, this was already you already had that about the access management in there. And I think 103 goes through the residential, commercial one.
Okay, not through two. That makes sense. That sounds good, concise and to the point.
And then, and the industrial.
The purpose of this industrial district is to accommodate intensive and concentrated manufacturing, fabrication, warehousing, distribution, and other industrial uses that are generally incompatible with residential and retail-oriented commercial districts. Is that all crossed out, provision for uses? Provisions?
And encourage.
Provisions for uses inappropriate for other commercial or residential districts.
No, I crossed all that
Yeah, that's all
out.
crossed out,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Some are crossed out more heavily than others.
Do you want me to read it? or-
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's hard to read.
Picking up where you left off, industrial uses that support year-round employment and a diverse local economy are encouraged in this district. The uses allowed within this district shall be subject to the performance standards set forth elsewhere in these zoning regulations. I was trying to say what they're for rather than state it positively that,
Why are we taking out the health and safety and welfare part?
where is that?
The last
Oh.
sentence in the first paragraph. I kind of like that part.
It's redundant.
What?
It's redundant. I mean, you have a zoning language and, you know, other uses is subjective, you know, what's incompatible.
Well, I guess, like, when they're gonna put that, wood burning plant, Pleasant Street Extension, it's probably pretty incompatible with people breathing in that area of the town.
That's where your performance standards could come into play.
Mhm.
And I haven't gotten to that section yet to look at them to see whether they're as robust as they can be.
Yeah. I don't know, I kind of like that sentence.
I kind of read that as the opposite. It's like, hey, we're not going to allow you to put a, I don't know, a daycare there because it's an industrial area.
Oh.
Other uses
Oh, I see what you mean.
are
Incompatible with,
industrial.
shall not, oh yeah, you're right, I'm reading it wrong. Okay. Maybe we need it for that,
We
though.
won't put housing there because you have a wood burning power plant.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
well, maybe we need to keep that there then. For that reason. Did you cross it out for a particular reason, Martha?
Well, it said above incompatible with residential and retail-oriented commercial districts. So I thought it was covered, not exactly in the same way, but.
I don't know, I vote to leave it in, but if you guys don't care, we can leave it out. If anybody wants any packets, we have like 4 up here, if you want to know what we're talking about. Want to come get a packet?
I think it's good as written. I do think, you know, the safety and health and welfare of the community is covered by saying incompatible with residential and retail-oriented commercial
Okay,
districts.
I'll let it go then. Okay, so we need to look at that second paragraph now?
That I just crossed out, because that was the one that was confusing, where it sounded
Oh.
like people could just create.
That's right, we
new-
talked about that last time.
Yeah, new
okay.
industrial districts. So the other main thing that I did was, I met with Terry and Aaron, and we talked about creating, and Kellen from our office, and we talked about creating a overlay district that would cover areas that have water, sewer, or both. And then there'd be different requirements, different minimum lot sizes, and different dimensional requirements based on, you know, it's like a class system. You'd classify the lot as either Class 1, which is a lot that has both public water and public sewer. Class 2 has just public sewer, but not public water. And then Class 3 has public water, but not public sewer. And that there could be different, well, the state establishes a minimum lot size of 8,712 square feet if it does have both. And then you could set different standards for lots that either have one or the other. And then, so the idea would be to make it less restricted than whatever underlying district is there. And then, when I set it, I'll stop sharing this and I'll share the draft. And it's just a draft at this point to kind of go over the concept and see what you think. And if I can find it.
Kai, are you there? I just wanted to tell you, you're next on the agenda. I want to make sure you don't have to wait all night.
Yes, no, that's fine. I saw the agenda. I know that I'm next, and I'll go on video when it's
Okay,
my turn.
I just realized I hadn't even greeted you yet, so.
No, that's okay.
Okay, so I can read it. The purpose of the Planned Growth Overlay District is to allow for high-density, mixed-use, and residential development within and adjacent to the village center that will meet the housing needs of residents and accommodate a majority of the housing required to reach Ludlow's housing goals. Lot size, density, and dimensional requirements in the Planned Growth Overlay District are based on the availability of public water and/or public sewer. Where the overlay district allows smaller minimum lot sizes, higher density, or reduced setbacks, these allowances shall supersede the lot size, density, and dimensional requirements for the underlying district. Multi-unit dwellings with up to 4 units are a permitted use on Class 1 lots in the Planned Growth Overlay District on the same size lot as a single-unit dwelling. And then it spells out the classification system that I just mentioned. And what I did in setting the minimum lot size and the various dimensional standards was to look at what you currently have for, I believe Class 1 reflects what you currently have for Village Residential and Village Residential 2. And then 2 and 3 reflects what you currently have, I think, in a few of the other town districts. And especially for Class 2 and 3, I was just looking at those as like a starting point for discussion, figuring that you want to be less restrictive since it's an overlay district and that's the purpose of it. But I wanted to at least sort of establish the floor. And I also created a couple of Excel spreadsheets that I will share. Explain better what I'm talking about.
I'll tell you guys.
Which districts would these
We're talking about.
classes be in?
Okay, they'd be in like RC1 and R1. And we were talking about Andover Road past Ludlow Service Station where Tony had his service station. Talking about Lower Main Street and
Okay.
Freedom Hill, the bottom of Freedom Hill, has water and sewer, Pleasant Street Extension. And that was about all we talked about at this meeting. But I went home and I read Act 47 again, and I read Act 181, and I think now that our growth area should only be where there's water and sewer. Because right now that has 3 acre zoning. So within 3 acres, you can have 1 dwelling with fifth acre zoning, within 3 acres, you can have 15 houses. And they can be duplexes and triplexes and quadplexes. It's not just, 4 stories, it's not just, it's a huge shift. So I think our growth areas should only be where we have water and sewer. I don't think we should tier it. And we should keep the rest of it at 3 acres, because we're already gonna have so much more development in those outskirts of the village. And if the select board wants to, have it go out further, then they're gonna have to put into the budget to bring the water and sewer out there. But by the state right now, all we're required is to make sure those places that have water and sewer are 1/5 acre zoning. Currently, within the town zoning, they're 3 acre zoning. You have to have 3 acres to build one house.
So for some reason, I can't move around in this spreadsheet, which is frustrating,
But we're talking about all village districts, we're not talking about.
No, we're talking about the towns and districts right now. We already did the
Because that
village.
says
Arrow with
village,
a
that's
cell.
why I was
Right.
getting a little
Hit
confused.
Just
your
having
arrow
trouble
left and
moving
right
it.
and move
Oh,
the
okay.
cell, now
Thank
move
you.
it down.
Yeah,
There we
I
go,
don't see it,
okay.
it doesn't see it.
No, thanks. I was like,
But the areas we specifically talked about were Lower Pleasant.
yeah, I remember that.
No, this was with Martha and I and,
Okay.
the
So
map.
Lower Pleasant as in
Not
Pleasant
Lower
Street
Pleasant Street Extension.
yeah.
Lower Freedom Hill.
Yeah,
There's water and sewer like halfway up Freedom Hill.
let's tell you.
Andover Road, like between Tony's and going up the road further.
Mhm.
So instead of 3 acre zoning, wherever there's water and sewer, we have to make it
Do your
1/5 acre
zoom-
zoning.
Zoom it out a little bit.
That's the
see if
intent
that
of the
helps.
state, but I
This
do want to
slider
mention
over
that
here,
when
that's-
I went over the
slider
village
left and right.
districts, after we did the whole, we
It's
did,
not really
Ted, I know was here through all of it, when we redid village zoning and updated it, I went through it with our lawyer,
can help
Chris
her.
You might be
Callahan,
able to
and he said
make
that,
this.
actually, our 47 says 5 acres, I mean,
It's not
yeah,
arrow.
1/5 acre or less. So it'd be 5 houses per acre
Yeah,
or
yeah.
less, and he
I
said,
think you
or
got
less,
one.
but
Maybe you
maybe
get that
one,
one.
or 0, like legally.
Yeah, hide the toolbar.
But in quarter, the state doesn't want us to do that. They obviously want us to have one house every 5th acre, and now it can be a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex.
Yeah, there we go.
But I think, rather than abandon every single, giving up every single arable, developable land, I think we should be more conservative and keep it at the places that have water and sewer now, currently. Because it's gonna be a big shift. And we're not gonna get the housing we need in this economy. We're gonna get more investment housing, we're gonna get more Airbnbs, and not residential housing.
So I've been playing with my computer and sort of trying to listen at the same time.
Jerry
So
got you all straightened out?
For future land use purposes, that's spelled out what can and can't go in each type of different future land use. So what we discussed when Aaron, with you and I and Aaron and Kellen, was just trying to create a overlay district that corresponds roughly to that future land use district where you would have a village in the village area. And that says sewer, water, or soils that are suitable for sewer. And in how Act 181 describes what can be in a village area, which uses can be in a village area.
But it doesn't subscribe 1/5 acre zoning for places that don't have water and sewer currently. It doesn't say that in 181. They're not
No,
the
and
whole thing.
then this overlay is not prescribing that. It's just prescribing
Right.
the 1/5 acre when you do have both.
Right,
water and sewer.
exactly.
But the others would still be in the district, but they would have a different,
Yeah.
they would be a class 2 or a class 3. So they would have different.
And 181 doesn't tell you exactly what density you have to have except where there's water and sewer.
In
That's
class
in
2 and
140.
3, no, it doesn't tell
No,
you
it doesn't.
exactly. what
Yeah.
So,
density.
public sewer and private land would be a class what?
Public sewer, private water would be a class 2.
Okay. Okay, right, okay, got it, I have it written down. Just- I know where we are now.
So this is just showing you where I got the numbers. The start, and this, again, just a starting point for what I'm suggesting for the Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. So, Class 1 mirrors VR and VR2. Class 2 and 3 mirror RC1, RC2. And
What I'm saying is, why do we need a 2 and 3? Let's just keep them the same. Just have a 1 and then the rest.
Well, I mean, I guess because if you want to mirror the future land use area,
But we don't have to. From every meeting I've gone to at regional. I just think it'd be a lot simpler, just have a class 1 and a class 2. I don't really get the 3-tiered thing. I mean, I get it, but I don't think we should do it. Brian?
So the tiers really show you what's the most developable land, you know, down to the lesser developable land, you know, tier 1 to class 1 being the most prime developable land. You know, then sewer is now, that's the second best because water typically is easier to run than sewer lines. And then just water is the worst because sewer is going to be more expensive. But by earmarking these areas, it will give incentive to bring utilities out past where they currently are. If we don't earmark these areas, there's going to be no incentive to, you know, extend our public utilities. You know, so I think it's a good, you know, as far as all of your dimensional standards and all the zoning that goes with it, I mean, that's up for discussion, but I think identifying these areas and putting them on a map in this overlay could be really beneficial to the future development of the town.
I mean, the goal is to promote more housing.
Right.
and-
Yeah, but I want it to be the housing we need, not the housing we don't need. And until there's guidelines that we can
But
actually
this-
get the housing we need for residents.
Why would you say this would be detrimental to getting the housing we need?
Because we're not gonna get by opening it up to development to lower the density, we're not gonna get residential housing right now.
So
And this
based-
current, unless there's some way we can fix it so that we can get
But I would
residential
say
housing,
based-
like Justin has
based on
talked
what
about that,
facts?
keeping certain areas of town for residential and not allowing like Airbnbs in those areas, so they're not just investment properties. Mr. Alden?
Couple things. I agree with what Ryan was trying to put out there, and in my opinion, it doesn't make sense to limit, you know, these areas based on some unfounded fear that there's, you know, certain things are gonna happen. I think you want to give opportunity areas for folks to come in and keep in mind that, you know, there's always a sort of a sentiment that if all this passed today, that suddenly there's gonna be 8,000 developers in town that wanna build here. You know, you're talking 10, 20, 30-year, 40-year plan here, you know, to get 100 units maybe. But you have to have opportunities to do it. And, you know, the narrative that that housing that's going to be built isn't the housing that we want, or it's going to be Airbnb, is really fear-mongering. It's not.
It's reality.
It's not.
It is reality.
Because what happens is you have a filtering effect. Someone built a house, this person moves up into the house, that allows that house to be open. There's data that shows that all over the country, that that's what happens. Fear of building luxury homes, even if they're all luxury, doesn't suddenly mean that if you build 100 units, that doesn't mean that 100 people are suddenly going to move into town. That means that 20 are going to move into town, and then someone moves into that house, and then someone moves into that rental unit. That's how housing works. It doesn't work on fear saying,
It's not a fear, it's just a different perspective of progress.
but
You
the
have
point
different
coming out
perspectives.
is you're saying you don't want to build housing because you don't want it to be this type of housing. So building no housing is not the answer.
I'm not saying I don't want to build, I want to build housing for residents, so we can have people in our town that participate in our boards and sit on our school boards and
But
contribute to
by
our town
building more
that way.
housing, that's how you get the housing for the residents.
But right now, the housing that's being built is not for residents. And so I don't want to take every single bit of developable, is that a word? Land and, you know, change the density on it in hopes that maybe somebody somewhere along the way is going to give us some residential housing. We already have to do that with a huge section. All of the places that have water and sewer, we already have to do the 1/5 acre zoning in the town. And as I was saying before, right now it's one house per 3 acres, now it's going to be 15. And those houses are going to be duplexes, and they can be quadplexes or triplexes, and they can be 4 stories, and it's a huge shift. And I just think
Terry,
we already have to open up a huge area to that now.
You know, can we go back to that slide, because what I saw was a class 2 house, so sewer and private well is 40,000 square feet. whereas
Yeah,
this is
right now,
8.
I'm just saying, what I'm saying, Judy, is why
And
is there a
this is
class
40.
2 and a class 3? Why can't it
Because they
just
don't
be-
have water and sewer.
Right, exactly.
So it's making it easier.
I'm fine with that as long as density doesn't change there.
Well, it's not.
Yeah, it's
We
not
just saw the
now.
chart.
It's not now.
66,000 square feet?
They would have to go through us to change it.
Right, and I'm saying when those maps are looked at by the select board and the trustees, we should weigh in on
This
that.
is one
Absolutely,
that-
but I don't think we should
Right.
block it because we need housing.
No, I don't think we should block it either, and we're opening up a huge area to it. You know, all the places that have water and sewer in the town.
What I
I mean,
was-
we've looked at
what I
the
was
maps
gonna
of town,
share.
and that's a huge area.
Something else, it's another.
But they have to be this anyway. But this is opening up 2 different kinds of areas to.
Yeah, it's classifying the
Build-
areas, it's just
build
showing you where
housing.
they are, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with it as long as we don't change the density of class 2 and class 3.
No.
We already do have to change class 1. Ryan Silvestri?
Sorry, economically, right now, it would make more sense to build a retirement community than anything else earmarked for short-term rentals. Short-term rental market is oversaturated, nightly rates are going down. You know, building hotel would even eat into that even more, because people want those full amenities, 24-hour concierge, so on and so forth. So there are ways, so by being hesitant to marking the map in this way, you're also basically giving no incentive for any other types of development at all. Retirement communities, 55 and older, that is one of the most needed developments in this entire state. That now moves people that are aging in place in 2,000, 3,000 square foot old homes and gives them a place to move on to. And then that house now is open for family, for sale, for whoever. So so this is just a good step of now illustrating and putting information out there as to where these next growth areas are. This is for 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And that's really been a theme, I think, of Ludlow in a whole, is there is no plan for 5, 10, 15 years. This is a really good step, I think, in that direction of betterment, for the future of the town. So just my 2 cents.
I
Yes,
would like
sir.
to say something that,
Wait, remind me how to pronounce your name?
Fike, it's like Mike with an F.
Okay, okay.
I would like to say that as one of the more newer residents in Ludlow, and considering the fact that I now own a business here, one thing that really got to me while I was cleaning up the station was, wow, I can't find housing here. I think I'm gonna need to take a cot, and I'm gonna need to live in my station until I find the right housing. It took me pawing through 6 or 7 different friends to say that, okay, this kid has a room that he's willing to share and he needs a roommate, to say that, okay, you know what? I now have an apartment, now I have a place to live. And incentivizing real estate where people can actually live, and it's not so much as Airbnb, will bring more and more business here as well. I just talked to the guys that just picked up the Brewfest location in town, and even they were asking, like, hey, we need a spot to live, and we have a family. And I'm like, well, you can room share. Oh no, they have a family, it's wife and kids, and that's not suitable for room sharing with another person. What are you gonna cram everybody in the same room? And in that sense, it needs to be incentivized that there is affordable housing, something that some of the locals can tap into, even if you don't have enough capital to grab a hold of some Airbnb level real estate, so to speak. I would say that as a business owner.
Okay, thank you, Fag. All right, Martha, what's next?
Well, so my my plan was to introduce this and let you know where I took these numbers from for a starting level for discussion. Sounds like maybe more discussion is needed about whether and how to go about doing this. But as they are right here, Class 2 and Class 3 don't give you any benefit, and the purpose is to give you a benefit. So this is just showing what basically you can already do now in
I'd love to just get on the map.
district. So what I did was to show also, oops. Share. So I just wanted to show you some of the surrounding towns who have Class 2 and Class 3 districts and what their lot size and dimensional standards look like. So there's Springfield, that's their medium-density residential district. Same standards for their high-density residential district. That's West Windsor's Resort Residential District and Windsor's medium-density residential district. So just gives you a sense of the benefits that you could offer if you reduced, say, from a 40,000 square foot lot to 10 or 20,000 square foot lot in the overlay district for Class 2, and some sort of a benefit for a Class 3 lot. And I highlighted lot size, setbacks, and coverage because those could all use some adjustments to make them more developable, make it more profitable for somebody to develop. But I'm not even sure you're there yet to discuss
Yeah,
any
I'm not a fan-
potential
I'm not a fan of
changes.
that.
Sounds
I
like-
see that, we do obviously have to change the Class 1, and that will happen, so let's see what happens with that before we, lower density in every single part of the town. Noah?
I feel like maybe it would be helpful to look at some of the recent development that we've had, go through some of our permits. And when I think of the luxury homes and stuff like that, and Ted, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I think of the lakes, I think of the mountain. I do not think in the village of those buildings. And look at where, some of this stuff is already in place. Where would some of this development be? What does that look like if there was a duplex here in these places? The other thing to remember as we develop, that's money into our grant list. That can be a way that we say, hey, we want to figure out this impact fee. We want to figure out the enterprise fund. Some of these development things of, hey, we really want to promote this housing. We know a certain percentage of development is not going to be residential use. Are there ways that we can allow some of this development? We know a percentage is going to be not exactly what we may want, but we can leverage that to achieve some of these other goals. Just thoughts.
And we will see that in the Class 1 area, we will see that. If we're going to have duplexes there and triplexes and what people are going to put there, there's going to be a whole area that gets opened up to that.
I did bring a map, but I don't want to hog all your time. I know you've got other
I guess
things.
I would say, I would not rule out Class 2 and 3. I think honestly that if we really want to promote growth, growth for residential and for,
I think it might be good
Others.
to look at the map, because the Class 1 area is pretty big. It's going to go from 3-acre zoning to 5th-acre zoning. It's pretty big, encompasses a pretty big area.
That's great.
So it would be good to look at the map, to see what we already are, what we already have to do.
Here's the map.
You want to pin it up, Martha? Pin it up,
That'd be a good idea.
put it right over the other one.
So everybody can see it?
You poured so many taps over the winds, over the months.
So this right now in pink is the pink outline here is the potential tier 1 outline, which would include your village and your village area. So it doesn't just include areas that have both water and sewer. It includes some areas that have one or the other. So if you want to look at an area that just has both, I'd have to get Kellen to make another map and show
Yeah.
what would be included and what wouldn't be included. And, I mean, I'm sure it's hard to tell from far away or online that it is on this map. There's like, where it's crosshatched double, there's both water and sewer. Where there's just this blue, like, this is on the, down on
Dots.
Andover Street, there's just water. And there's some areas like up here off Freedom Hill where there's just sewer. And then lower down, there's both. So, this is what the Madison County Regional Commission was going to propose as your tier 1 area that meets the criteria that have been set for a tier 1 area.
So these would be tier 1?
All the
And
pink.
See the
these-
dark pink outline?
Just the dark pink outline?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I wanted to get. And then where would tier 2 be? Or would it be, it would be
Well-
this area, but it has not both water and sewer?
So this gets confusing because
Yeah,
the
right.
tiers are for Act 250 jurisdiction.
Okay.
So tier 1 would mean that it's not subject to Act 250. Tier 2 is basically, areas outside here that are subject to Act 250 as they are now. There's going to be tier 3 that's not under our control or anyone's control except the Land Use Review Board. They're going to set tier 3 areas where Act 250 will actually have more control than they currently do. So, but the purpose of, so tier 1, they're doing that. They're setting up so you don't have Act 250 exemptions to encourage housing. So that's why I was trying to come up with a plan that would basically mirror that tier 1 future land use area and also encourage housing.
So this is tier 1?
That's not, there's sewer there. But the other thing they like to see, the Land Use Review Board, is walkability. So it's too far out of town, or I'm understanding it's real steep in here somewhere. and
There's
no
flood areas, there's steep
sidewalks.
areas,
Yeah,
yeah.
so areas where
There's
it's
river
real
corridors.
steep, where it's really too far to walk, or there's no sidewalks and
It's
a
kind of
narrow-
debatable that Freedom's Hill is too far to walk to the village.
Yeah.
That's quite a haul.
Yeah,
Halfway up Freedom Hill to the village.
we're thinking, it's quite possible that the Land Use Review Board will say no, but we figured we'd start with the larger area first.
But we can give input online and at the
Oh, yeah,
select board and
yeah.
the trustees meeting too about that.
Right.
Our maps can change with our input.
Right, sure.
Exactly.
I mean, we have to submit our future land use map next month.
To the
So-
Land Use Review Board.
So,
And they'll either accept it or not.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Martha.
Yeah.
Noah?
So I was just taking a look at our map here, and I think we've gotten ourselves caught in this before. Looking at some of these lots, like Freedom Hill,
Mhm.
Deerfield Lane, we're already under the 3 acres. A lot of those are 1. So it could be something to, think back of, what is actually realistic, or what is possible. We could look at something and, hey, you're gonna allow it with these parameters, but those parameters don't actually exist. And looking at it of like, okay, the vast majority of this area we're talking about, we're already kind of in this zone. So going from 1 acre down to a half an acre, or you know, the 3 acre down to 1 acre, well, a lot of that stuff already exists. So that could be helpful too, of like these areas where we think it might be problematic in development, what's actually there in existence.
Yeah, and they also encourage towns to reflect what's actually already there, so you're not creating a whole bunch of non-conforming lots.
Is there anything else, Martha? Okay,
That's it.
thank you. And Kai, if you want to jump in here. Oh, wait, do we have any more comments or anything that needs to be said? Board members? We're good? Okay. Kai, welcome. We're ready for you.
Hello, how are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good. This was an interesting conversation to listen to because it kind of, there are some parts that tie into my presentation. All housing is, of course, related. Okay, so my name is Kai. I'm Kai Froelich. I'm the co-founder of a company called Placemate, where we run a couple of different housing incentive programs in partnership with local jurisdictions and primarily tourist communities. And one of those programs is called Lease to Locals. That's what I'm going to be presenting about here. So do I have the ability to share my screen?
Yes.
Rebecca's giving
Yes,
us
okay. Okay, let me
Thanks,
try to do
Rebecca.
that. Okay. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Okay.
No,
No, yeah.
no, we just see you, and it's very small.
It's there but tiny above your head.
That's on our end.
Just
though.
gotta change the view.
Somebody's gotta click switch to
Oh.
shared content.
Okay.
There we go.
That's good.
If you go to like see the presentation,
And you can see it.
can you see it now?
Got it.
Okay, great. So I'm going to give a bit of a background on the business and Placemate, a background on Lease to Locals, do a market deep dive into, oh, this says Provincetown, CA, sorry, that's supposed to say Provincetown, MA. And on the Cape, and then bringing Lease to Locals to a new market and what that entails. So, as I said, our company's name is Placemate. We have this vision where communities can thrive because local employees can find stable housing. And our mission is to help local employees secure housing in, as I said, tourism-based communities through public and private partnerships. And we do exist across the country. We started our business in Truckee, California. I'm currently zooming in from Portland, Maine, where I and my husband, who's my co-founder, moved to about 3 years ago. But the rest of our business is still based in Truckee, California, which is in Lake Tahoe. And that's where the rest of our employees reside. So this is kind of the evolution of our business. We started by moving to Truckee, California from San Francisco, and we were just completely dumbfounded at the lack of housing for locals and how many businesses and business owners we had talked to who were really struggling because they couldn't find employees. Because nobody could live there. And it wasn't just an affordability problem, it was also a true availability problem that I know you guys have also seen in Ludlow and surrounding areas in that part of Vermont. And so we created a platform because we knew there were so many empty second homes. And similarly, in 2018, 2019, we saw this true saturation of Airbnbs. We knew that there were people who were willing to rent out their properties, but they just didn't really know how to do that. And there had previously been a survey done by the Community Foundation that led us to that conclusion. So we launched this marketplace called the Airbnb for Locals, or that we kind of dubbed the Airbnb for Locals housing. And then in 2020, when COVID hit, we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know what was going to happen with the housing market. And in Truckee, just like I'm sure in Ludlow, you guys felt that there were so many people who were coming to town, people who were taking rentals off the market. It really squeezed the housing inventory even more. The town of Truckee came to us and said, we love what you guys are doing. We want to sweeten the deal for homeowners by adding in an incentive. We have some money for housing. It's not really enough for building the projects that we want to build, but it seems like maybe we could unlock more units by adding in an incentive to the program, to the work that you're already doing. So we launched a lease to locals, what we then started calling the lease to locals program, a pilot program in Truckee. And then the word caught on that that was a successful program. And then we launched it in Colorado in 2021. We launched our 10th market in Woodstock, Vermont, actually, in spring 2024. And then in the summer of 2024, we launched our the first market of a different program that's called the Rooted Renters Program. That program I'm not really going to be talking about much, but it's a preservation program. It's kind of one level up from lease to locals. It locks in existing landlords for 3 years. So the lease to locals program structure is, as I said, it's an incentive program. We're really converting existing housing stock to new longer term rentals, specifically for locals, for those who work locally, and the town can determine what local means. In some places, they do that by school district boundaries. In some places, they do that by kind of existing town partnerships. In some places, they do it by county. So what happens is that the town or whatever the jurisdiction is provides property owners cash incentives to convert their properties into seasonal and long-term rentals. We do seasonal rentals in the Mountain West where we operate. We do not actually do seasonal rentals in any of our East Coast markets. And that's just because of the nature of the seasonal workforce. We allow governments to quickly and efficiently address critical missing middle housing needs. So this is not like a capital A affordable program. It's really for those who don't qualify for subsidies, but for people who don't make enough money to buy a house in places where the price of housing is just really skyrocketed, which is basically everywhere. So these are our current markets. We're all the way from Mill Valley, California, where we just launched a couple months ago, all the way out to Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, and the Cape on the East Coast. So our overall results, we've been very pleased that in 5 years we have housed close to 2,000 people across all of our markets and unlocked almost 1,000 housing units. As I said, this is a way for local governments to very quickly and efficiently move people into housing units. And this program works rather quickly in order to be able to do that. And often it's a program that's being used while towns are building really critically needed housing units. So we say that it's like one arrow in the quiver. It's not the housing solution. It is a housing solution that can really be well utilized alongside other options. So this is a deep dive into one of our markets and kind of what this looks like in real life. So the town of Provincetown, at the end of Cape Cod, we launched in April 2024. So we're coming up on 2 years now. The program guidelines. So each of our programs across the country can really have full control over their program guidelines. Our only requirement is that this program is for the local workforce. So that's really it. Where the property is located is up to the jurisdiction, although mostly whoever's paying for the program wants the properties to be located within their town or their county. Whether it's available for season or a year is also up to the jurisdiction. Rent caps, incentive amounts, what local employment means, how many hours people need to be locally employed, where that local employment boundary is, that is entirely up to the jurisdiction. And in creating these programs, we bring lessons learned from all of our markets, but we are not wed to any of those. So we can be very helpful in crafting these program guidelines, but there's not really like a set rule for anything. So the program guidelines for Provincetown is that the property must be located within the town boundaries. It must not have been rented to year-round tenants in the past 12 months, whether seasonally or long-term. Leases must be 12 plus months and are subject to a rent cap by unit size. In some of our markets, there is no rent cap. In some, there is kind of an overall rent cap. That's really up to the jurisdiction. Incentive amounts vary based on the length of lease and the number of qualified tenants, up to $20,000. So that can be like $20,000 for 4 tenants locally employed. Now, Provincetown has very expensive real estate. People can garner very high nightly rental rates on Airbnb. I would say that Provincetown is generally skewed much higher in terms of the incentive amounts. So don't have that number scare you away. There are definitely much lower incentive amounts with very successful lease to locals programs. At least one tenant must be locally employed or contribute to the community and be a full-time resident. They have this carve out specifically because they have a large artist community. And so they wanted to have people who were artists who were not necessarily traditionally locally employed still be able to participate in this program. And then they have a 150% AMI cap for employees and or sorry, for qualified tenants who are locally employed. Again, that is not a requirement for this program. It can be 120. We've seen as low as 120 or as high as there is no income cap. And that being that people who work locally, if they already fit that requirement, it generally wouldn't be able to buy anyway, and they should still be able to participate in this program. So as I said, these are the program incentive amounts and the rent caps over on the right. So in a 3-bedroom, 3 qualified tenants is, sorry, I said 4 before, but it's 3 qualified tenants and in a 3-bedroom home would be $20,000. It goes down from there, as you can see from this chart. And I can also send this to Erin, and then she can send this around to the committee if that's of interest. And then the rent caps are on the right for all the way from a private room at $1,000 per month to $3,800 per month for a 3-bedroom. And again, this is completely customizable. As I said, Provincetown skews very high on rental rates, so it's really per community. So one of the things that our company does, in addition to consulting with the town to create the best program possible and then administering that, so we get every phone call, every email, work with all of the homeowners and the tenants to collect their applications and make sure that everybody is above board before submitting it to the town and the homeowner receiving the payment. We also do really great marketing, and that's something that we know how to do. We know how to get in front of homeowners to get them excited enough about the program that they pick up the phone and they talk to us and learn more about it. So this is some examples of the postcards that we send. We found that postcards sent to a tax-paying address, so at their primary residence, is really the best way to get in front of folks. So we've seen some really good results in honestly almost all of our markets. These are the results on the tenant side from Provincetown. We've unlocked 51 properties. So this has been a year and a half of unlocked 51 properties. housed 78 people. Average rent for per bedroom is $1,100, almost $1,200. Average rent per property is about 2,000. So it tends to skew towards smaller units. There aren't as many families in Provincetown, and so that's the reason for that. And then the average annual income per qualified tenant is 53.4. So even though there is a cap of 150% AMI, we aren't seeing anywhere close to that for the average annual income. We're still seeing quite low. And I would say that that is true across all of our markets, that even if there are really high income caps, like up to 200%, we generally see very low. But people do want to be able to say that this program is available for people who still make a high amount of money, but even with that high income, they aren't able to purchase a home. So most leased to locals markets see 60 to 70% tenant retention with no additional incentives. When we created this program, our hypothesis was that we would see folks dip their toe into the long-term rental market and they would continue to stay with that. And we've been very happy with those results. Um, Even if it's just a 1 year incentive. Provincetown decided that they wanted to provide a renewal subsidy at a lower rate. So like 100% for the first year and then 75% for the second year. And their retention is well above 70% and has been up to 90% at times. So their average cost of incentive per property, this is always everybody's question, is like, well, so it goes up to $20,000, but how much are you really seeing? So their on average cost of their the average cost of incentive per property is 10,000, which is half of the maximum. And I think that part of that has to do with the fact that they skew towards smaller units there. But they've spent $4,300 in marketing. That's over a year and a half. It's just done really well. And so they haven't really had to do that much marketing for the program. It's also grown in the region. And so I think that there's a lot of word of mouth. It's expanded to 2 more towns in that part of the Cape, and then possibly adding 1 more. We're also on Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. So I think that there's just a lot of word of mouth for the program. They've spent $210,000 on admin, and then they've committed $746K for the grants, for the incentives to homeowners. This is some of the feedback that you can read through. Again, I can send this deck out. People have had really great things to say about this, both on the property owner and on the tenant side of things. These are just kind of most recent testimonials. So in terms of bringing lease to locals to a new market, we generally say that 3 things need to be true. We need to have a public jurisdiction or a nonprofit partner on the ground. Most of the time, I would say 9 times out of 10, it's a public jurisdiction. In the case of Nantucket, for example, we started with a nonprofit partner. They really wanted to get this off the ground quickly. And they knew that it would take longer at the public level. We did run it in partnership with a nonprofit for 2 years, and then the town just voted to adopt the program. So now we are partnering with the town of Nantucket themselves for the 3rd year of the program. There also needs to be funds in place for at least the first year of the program, ideally for the first 2 years. And we say that mainly because if you start a program, say in October 2025, and there are some people who don't want to get signed up until December or January, the nature of the program is that it goes for 12 months. And so we do all of the compliance and all of the lease end check-ins and making sure that everybody gets their final checks for the program. We don't want that to be then passed on to the burden to the housing department. And so that would naturally go into a second year already.
There also needs to be political will from the community and or local elected officials. That's obviously quite important if people are going to be spending public funds on this program. This is how lease to locals is funded in other markets. So there's local option tax. There is ARPA started. There were a couple of places that started with ARPA money, but then kind of rolled into other sources of funding. Room excise tax on Martha's Vineyard, general fund. People get very creative in how they fund this program. And then, yeah, the program definition, this goes back to the program guidelines, we then figure out what types of units are eligible, figuring out the incentive structure and the lease length, whether or not there's going to be a rent cap or not, and then defining the local workforce and who you want to be serving, meaning what's the income, what types of employment, how much, where people are in the range of AMI. So this is kind of an example incentive structure. It's going to be 12 months or a seasonal lease if you were to go the seasonal route. And then we really start with saying that we land on a possible incentive by figuring out what people are making on the short-term rental market, the tenants that we want to be addressing, and the income that they are generally making. And so from there, extracting what is a fair rental rate for them. And so that bridge between the short-term and the long-term rental rates is kind of the starting point for the incentives. It doesn't have to be that. That's just kind of where we start as a ballpark. And then figuring out the target property owner. Some folks really double down on accessory dwelling units if there are a lot of those in the community. Some people will say, okay, it's going to be all short-term rental owners that are probably going to be using this program. Then it's also a question of, are we going to have empty rooms in the program or not? Figuring all of that out. As I said, figuring out the tenant profile. And that is how you make a lease to locals program. So there's an appendix to this presentation. I won't go through that now. I will send this, as I said, I will send this along to Erin. But I can take any questions that you all might have.
Anybody have a question for Kai?
I'll shoot one out there. Kai, are your rents set locally, or does HUD set those rents based on AMI?
Those rents can be set locally.
What sort of pushback, if any, have you gotten from homeowners who, especially going from a short-term market where, hey, I'm not locked into a lease, tenant laws are not a thing, I'm worried about locking up my house and having someone in there full-time like that?
Yeah, I think that generally the mentality for people is that this incentive really provides it's kind of like a large security deposit. It's basically like, here is an incentive for you to take the chance on moving from short-term rental to long-term rental. And I think that is kind of incentive enough for people to want to, as I said, dip their toe into the long-term rental pool. I think that also we've actually never had an eviction in almost 1,000 units across the country. I think that the way that the program is structured to have the homeowners and the tenants really work together to be completing the program, or sorry, to be completing the application, to be communicating really well throughout that entire process. They both want to be participating together, that really sets them up well for a really good relationship before the lease even starts.
Do you guys serve as kind of the broker in this situation where you're doing, you know, you're kind of fielding those applications, making sure people qualify? Are you doing like credit checks and those kind of things, or is that that's on the landlord side?
That's a good question. We know that a lot. So no, we don't do the credit checks or the reference checks, anything like that. Mainly because we would have to have a broker's license in every state that we operate in. And that is quite a hurdle. However, we do know that most of our landlords are going to be first-time landlords, and so we have a lot of resources that help them do those steps. They can also list their properties on our website. We have a listings page on our site. And so if you're a tenant and you go on and you make a renter profile, then you get a notification whenever somebody posts a lease to locals property in your area. And so they're almost pre-vetted for the program before they even start to message with the homeowner. And so we have some tech enablement that makes those things easier for the homeowner.
And maybe you have some of this in some of the other documentation, but if you know, it seems like they're spending quite a bit in Provincetown. But if Ludlow said, "Hey, we have $100,000, we're going to earmark towards this as kind of a pilot," is that a workable number?
Yeah, we have Chilmark, which is I think a similar size town. And so we're targeting for them about 10 properties for the first year of the program. And I think we're on track for that right now. They launched in August. And yeah, I think they earmarked 150,000. So, and that's all in with marketing, our administrative fee, and the incentives. And I will say that I'm also chatting with some folks in Londonderry, and what we've done on the Cape, and we're going to be doing on Martha's Vineyard, is when neighboring towns want to come together with the same program guidelines, they have a discount. One, it's really helpful from kind of word of mouth and just like more organic marketing of the program, if it's a larger area that we're serving. But two, we also have a discounted administrative fee if it's two towns participating together, and so that's often a cost saving measure for some of those places.
So I have a question. As a local business owner, I wanted to know that, as I'm one of those business owners, that I want to make sure that I'm hiring locals, that it's more of a community center in my place of business at that point. Considering where you've done this, are there businesses that promote or do any aspect of the marketing that bring this to lease to locals program to specific employees? Like, I lease in town as a self-employed individual, so I would want to hire more and more of local people as well.
Yeah, so that's a great question. We have tried over the last 7 years to figure out how to make this, because towns also always ask me this question. They say, well, how can the businesses get involved? Like, can they put in money for the program? That gets really tricky, because then it becomes really like a pay to play model, because business owners like yourself, I would imagine, don't have the money, especially small business owners don't have the money to just like put money into a pot and say, this is just for the common good of the community, and hopefully one of my employees gets picked. They want to only pay if their employees get chosen for a property, then they would perhaps pay some of the incentive. That's kind of the model that we've teased out with a number of different markets. And that it's just really unfair to the smaller the business owner, the less likely they are to be able to do that. And so then those employees don't get chosen, and it really only goes to like the larger employers in town. So we haven't really found a way to make that very fair.
So outside of the monetary compensation that you're talking about, what could business owners possibly do to promote this on all facets as a whole?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we definitely will send out emails kind of at the beginning of the program or even before the program's launched to like the Chamber of Commerce, say, tell all of your chamber members that this program is here, get all of their employees to fill out tenant profiles so that they can be the first ones to get notified when there are listings that are posted in town. They could even have postcards, or if they wanted to, we could, do some marketing that they could have in their businesses for people who are, in town, and saying like, oh, this is a really interesting program. Maybe I would want to put my ADU on there, or, maybe they're just in town once and they're kind of figuring out what they're going to do with their property next year, and saying, oh, like that might be a really interesting idea for me to do, or for my neighbor who never comes to Ludlow anymore and this house has been sitting empty for 3 years. Yeah, I mean, businesses can definitely get involved and we can get creative on that marketing.
It's more of a sort of a comment on these programs can work, and they do work. It takes buy-in, from the town. And there are a lot of folks out there. I know that there's always a perception, that the second homeowners in town just want to make money on Airbnbs, but there are a lot of folks that don't do Airbnb. I don't do Airbnb myself. I long-term rent. So those folks are out there, even without the incentives. So when you add incentives in, it certainly helps. And I do a similar program like this, although we buy the properties. So we set up a nonprofit, and we actually go out and purchase the properties, and then we rent them to 80% AMI, in the town. And the town has seen how successful this is. They decided to partner, and they give us money every year. The town actually gives us $1 million a year to go out and buy properties. Wow. For these types of programs. So it allows folks in who wouldn't normally be able to live in the town because they can't afford it, and then become locals, become, business owners, and they contribute to the community. So these programs work, but there's got to be, the buy-in, and there has to be, some management to it. But the buy-in piece of it and the startup funds are probably the most important piece. But they do work.
Thank you, Guy.
So you're going to send this information to Erin, is that correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
All right, any other questions?
Any other questions?
I guess how's it going in Woodstock?
So Woodstock ended up only being a one-year program. They decided that they wanted to take it in-house, which is great. We kind of showed them the ropes on how to do it. They, honestly, they had very challenging requirements for people to be able to participate in the program. They had to have all of their fire alarms had to be hardwired, which was very onerous for most property owners. And then we also got a lot of interest from like right outside of the town boundaries. And so that was also somewhat challenging. I think there needed to be more marketing. I think that there needed to be more partnership with other towns. But they decided to take it in-house, and they've had some success once we kind of gave them the playbook.
Well, your marketing must be good, because I heard about the Provincetown program way back in about April of 2024. It was
good.
News or something. Yeah, I remember reading that.
I'm glad to hear it. Yeah,
that program is still going very strong.
Thank you, Kai. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you all so much. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, well, moving on to our signage discussion. Aaron's not here. Jared, are you here to?
So, yes, I'm here to represent.
Skedaddle? Thank you.
I'll make this as quick as possible. So basically, what's in the packet is a forward by Aaron, and then some suggestions by me to the village sign regulations. And so I think I'll just do a quick read overview of the forward. So the purpose is to seek updating signage regulations to balance two important community objectives: to support local businesses with fair and predictable and flexible sign allowances, and to maintain a traditional village aesthetic consistent with a rural ski town, including a prohibition on internal illumination. So we've looked at other towns as comparables, three in particular: Manchester, Killington, and Woodstock, I believe. And so point of interest on those towns were a strict prohibition of internal illumination, which we have now. It strengthens the village character, which we firmly believe in. We have to allow reasonable sign area, but to keep it scaled to building frontage. Currently, we don't have a percentage of building frontage, but that's something that we can look into. We have a limit on the number of signs, but we should be allowing some more flexibility through sign type substitution. For instance, trading, right now we can trade some square footage from a wall sign to an awning sign. So to increase your awning size, maximum square footage. But at the same time, you'd be limiting some of the wall signs that you have. And I guess to reinforce the village appropriate materials and craft, that's aligns with a small ski town feel. We'd like to address any temporary signs. And so we have, Aaron says, fairness without clutter.
Can you tell me what page you're on, because I'm doing minutes.
Oh, I'm blowing through.
I know you are. I have nothing.
Page 3
3,
and 4.
4.
Right now, yeah.
34.
I'm just doing the quick numerical
3 and
headlines
4.
here.
3 of
3
4.
into 4.
Okay.
Yeah, these weren't really indexed.
No, they're not.
We touched on temporary signs, town permits, temporary signage, but with limits. So in Woodstock and Manchester, they give you a few examples. Currently, we have two types of temporary signs: a 30-day temporary sign and a daily temporary sign, which is a sign you'd put out on your sidewalk or in front of your business and then take in at night. So then she has a couple of recommendations, and a lot of these recommendations are what we have now. But we could expand on that a little bit. And then I think the most important thing is the consistency with the tourism and the ski town identity. We want to try to equalize everybody's availability to post signage for their businesses, and so that none feel left out or up against some other older signs that might be internally illuminated or larger. So
Is there a way to get around that grandfathering thing?
in the vein, so I'm going to try to do a quick overview of our current village sign regulations and some suggested changes. One would be a sunsetting clause. And so if a sign would be updated, I think it's Woodstock has, if a sign is updated, then they have to at least come into compliance with current lighting regulations. So we could take that one step further and say, you have to come into compliance with all of our sign regulations. So if the Legion, for instance, wanted to update their classic antique internally lit sign, unfortunately, they would have to come into compliance and make it an externally lit sign. So if all they wanted to do was change the light bulb ad infinitum, they could. We also have a means to, let me see if I can find my notes here.
Could you tie that with any change You submit a
Yeah.
permit?
So that was a quick last-minute thought that was related to the lighting update from Woodstock. And I think
Where is
Phil
it? Is she
Phil
okay?
Carter actually mentioned that there used to be a sunset clause for signs. So nowhere could I find it, so I thought we'd bring that back. And so it doesn't unify the ski town aesthetic instantly, but over 10 or 20 years, as the town grows, we can become more of a ski town, less of a town with a ski resort.
So your changes, Jared, like
So the
they're not-
changes start with permanent signs, and I think the most significant change would be to allow a maximum square footage of signage, not just per lot, but per business on a multi-tenant lot. Currently,
I need to ask you again where you are, because I'm trying to.
I'm in the very,
Oh.
page 34, I think it's in blue in the upper right-hand corner, it should be 34. And so I kind of wanted to jump to this part,
It's like
because I
in the
think this
back.
is really the meat of what we need
And the
to
numbers are
talk
at the
about.
top. It's in this back section, the numbers are at the top.
Okay, gotcha.
So we have currently, there's a limited number of signs per lot, and whether it's a freestanding wall or awning, which is the 3 types each business is allowed, most of the lots with multiple businesses on them are not in compliance with our sign regulations. Our former zoning administrator had granted sign permits based
Bless you.
on a business,
Bless you.
not on the lot. And so by allowing it to be based on the business, we're equalizing it across the board to allow everybody equal fairness.
Yeah, I think
And
that's a
so
good idea.
I want to point out an example, Lemire Square. Your one wall sign is limited to 16 square feet for the whole lot. That would mean every business on the lot would only be allowed a sign the size of a record column.
Yeah,
And it's clearly not. And so we're not going to go violate everybody. We want to bring everybody into compliance. The easiest way to do it is to say, okay, we're going to treat everybody fairly. Most of the multi-business lots are 16 square foot per business. And so that would just make it official across the board. Single business lots would still remain, at least for now, at 16 square feet for a wall sign, but you can trade for awning square footage or projecting. And so on the right-hand side, there's comments about any changes that would be suggested. I think last time we brought this up, and I made a new note, number 5, under the footnotes for the permanent sign designations. And while remaining at a maximum of 16 square feet per business, on multi-tenant lots, a collective maximum of 35% the linear frontage of the building would be allowable. So this kind of brings in the linear frontage that Killington has, that Woodstock has, and Manchester has. I would urge you just to go through these and read the changes that were suggested and decide whether or not it's a viable alternative to our current sign regulations. I tried to make it as equally fair as possible without, increasing the signage to, twice or 3 times the size, because as in the preamble of our zoning regulations, more signage does not mean more business. In so many words.
Well, this is a lot of good research. Appreciate it from you and Aaron.
Can I clarify one thing, Jared?
Sure, yeah.
That I think you said, but I want to make sure I recorded it correctly. When you were talking about sunsetting, does this capture what you were saying? If a business has signage and they want to update, then they need to come into compliance with new regulations? Is that correct?
That's correct. So
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure I captured it.
in section A, I've added, there were 2 subheadings. Number 1, permanent signs, and number 2, unaffixed, non-permanent signs. But then if you, a number 3 was added, a number 4 was added, and then the number 5, a number 6 would be the sunset clause.
Okay.
All new and refreshed signs must comply with Article 5, Section 540, which is our sign laws. So it just goes beyond lighting. It goes to eventually if, say, mobile becomes Mobile
It's on
Co.
page
or
36.
Mobile LLC,
Right here, it's on page 36,
page 36.
in blue.
So if, so for instance, mobile gas station becomes, Mobile Co. or Mobile LLC, and they needed to update their sign, that clearly non-compliant sign would have to come into compliance. And so it evens the playing field for all of the other businesses
Yeah, which is what
over time.
Mike was talking about last month. Ryan?
That sounds really
Sylvester
good.
has a question, Jared, can he?
I just wanted to point out that, to really clean up the signs, you'd want to say any permit. If you want a permit to do anything and your sign's non-conforming, you now have to conform to the current sign.
That's a good idea. That would get it a lot
So it's not
quicker.
just if you're pulling a sign permit. If you need a permit for anything in your operations, to do anything on
It's
your
a great
property,
idea.
you have to conform.
Do you guys think we should add that
Interesting
language? I do. But that would be somewhere else, not just here.
That's tough.
That would hasten the
You want
It would
to
definitely hasten
clean
it.
it up, or do you want to just keep going around the merry-go-round?
Eventually, but we didn't want.
Okay, I see Fike and then I see Noah. Fike?
I want to piggyback off of his point, as a business that sits in the middle of at least 4 businesses that are all grandfathered in, nobody in their right mind in those businesses is going to update their sign and be forced to follow the smaller signage compliance. With that said, since this law has been passed in the past year, there should be a time frame wherein these businesses are obligated to follow the signage constraints. Otherwise, it's, when you guys update it, you guys are not gonna have to go to a smaller sign. Nobody in their right mind is gonna go from like an S class to a C class, right? Everybody's gonna want the Rolls Royce to S class. Nobody's
Yeah.
gonna go down from that.
Right, and
So-
I was thinking that it's too bad we didn't already have that in place because they just upgraded everything. And it could have, and it could have been fixed then.
And I wanted to
The
say.
unfair competition.
I wanted to say one more point is in the past week, when it was sub-zero, I was changing gas prices, and I was lowering them, mind you. My signage prices had frozen up there. So while they were frozen, thank the Lord that I had a ladder that could have reached it, but I was sitting on a sheet of ice. So my rubber footing, no matter how good it was
no.
on that ladder, and it was windy, I would say this begs to argue the fact that maybe if the signs were digital or illuminated, something that goes completely against what Ludlow is about, and it's completely vehemently argued in these laws, but it would argue the safety of it, because at that point, it's like, well, do I have a bucket loader that I'm gonna go up there and change the prices with? No, not every business is gonna have a ladder of that stature that can go and change those prices. The rubber suction apparatus that we use normally was useless at that point.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Noah, did you still
Yeah,
have
so
something?
maybe there's something, what's the big one? Is it the illumination, is it the size, or hey, throw that into any permit or something like that. One thing I do wonder, because it happened when Russ moved his photos from next to Paula over to Lemire Square. Same sign, moved it there, needed a new permit. Is that something we like? If you say, hey, you need to file this permit, you need to update your sign, do we then require the payment of that sign permit if you are coming into compliance? And maybe that's a way
Yeah.
to.
It's very expensive too, because Johnny's is changing their sign right now. It's very pricey.
Yeah, hey,
Try
we're
to do one at
gonna
a
come into
time.
compliance, downgrade, we'll give you a discount on your sign permit.
Eric,
Sounds
did
like
you
a
add
position to
something?
give discounts.
Eric, did you have something?
I usually agree with my friend over here, but sometimes we disagree. generally tying it to any permit seems
Efficient? No, I'm just kidding.
intrusive. So, if I have a business and I have signage, I have no plans to change my signage, but if I decide I need to, upgrade my restroom, now I have to change all my signage. Maybe a dollar amount, maybe something in that permit, but just a permit to do something seems excessive to me.
The pendulum can definitely fall in the middle, but there's a way to actually execute
Yeah,
and get something done.
compromise.
And then there's a way so that we change words and nothing in our environment changes. So there's obviously, the pendulum can swing in the middle.
I remember, Ryan, when you were on this board, when we talked about and put in, if you do more than $10,000 renovation in your home, then you need a permit, or was that?
Interior renovations,
Interior.
yeah.
It could be, I'm not saying that, but something similar, like kind of a.
Tied into how much improvement you're making, like?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, which we would have to think about, come up with something.
But how about we'll take Jared and Aaron's notes, we'll do our
Yes.
homework, and come back and decide yay or nay on each part.
There might
But
be,
I
a
really do
couple that
appreciate
are,
this research.
a lot of it is just technical, grammatical, but, there's a couple of bullet points that, one is like the sunsetting clause. There's also a note here under A1 that says this does not apply if a landowner has more than one freestanding sign. Well, that doesn't make sense because you're not allowed more than one freestanding sign anyway, so why is that even in there?
Yeah.
Unless we want to allow that, or do we? And where, in the village or the town? So there's a little bit to discuss with that note, but everything else is pretty much, tries to level the playing field for all businesses across.
And I'll get this one to Jeannie, too.
Across the village.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. So
Okay.
we'll put this back on the agenda next month and decide, where to make the changes.
I have,
All right.
I have
All right.
one final thing to say.
We're way over time, so can
I
it be
just
quite
want-
brief? Yes, Spike, go
Really
ahead.
quick. My only thing is, while we're trying to abide by the persona of being a ski town and things of that nature, I gotta say it's kind of arbitrary because most drivers now, most skiers, they're not as observant and vigilant as they once were. Everyone is so visually stimulated. Most of the people that come to town now, from Connecticut, Mass, Jersey, New York, their average visual stimulation is tenfold that of the average Vermonter in another 100 years, so to speak. That said, being able to have a sign that actually captures a driver so they can stop more than 300 or 400 feet before actually pulling into a gas station would promote enough safety that, hey, you know what, oh, there's a gas station there, they have a big enough sign, or I can see their gas prices. Let me pull into that station because the Shell or the Mobil is packed.
Okay, thank you. All right, our next agenda item is town plan update. We have to have a new town plan ready to go, 2027. And it's a lot to do. I went to an entire workshop on it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it tonight because we're already over our time. Just briefly, our goals have to be consistent with the state planning goals, has to become compatible with the regional plan and the town plans of neighboring towns. I think Judy's activity that we did last year, and we had Ted's input, even though he couldn't be here, he gave us his idea. We already have those goal sheets. I have them in my photos. And I think that our goals are going to be pretty easy to put down, and the goals have to be attainable, they have to have a timeline. But the thing I just want to talk about briefly tonight is the introduction. And one idea that they had at this workshop was, and I want to show it. Can I share my screen, Rebecca?
Yeah, I should be able to.
All I gotta do is find it. Here it is. Okay, so the old town plan up there, those are the photos that are on the front page of it, and the person that did those was, who has credit here later on. His name was Tom Johnson. One suggestion that they had, and also we've put some pictures throughout the town plan too. One suggestion that they had is to have a photo contest and, put it out in the journal and wherever you can, go to the, give it to the organizations in town, Friends of the Library, and say, submit photos, and if your photos win, they'll be part of our new town plan. And, we'll just pick the winning photos, one way to get photos with no money. And, obviously, we have to get that legally fixed, so they know their photos become a property of the town. Do you guys like that idea? Do you want to stick with the old photos? Do you want to ask Tom Johnson to go back out on the road and take some more?
I guess I'd have to think about it.
Okay.
Photos aren't the most important thing on my mind right now.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
late
photos will
too.
be easy to come by.
It's late too, yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I'll bring that up next time.
Yeah.
All right, and I thought tonight we would go through the introduction, but it's too late, so we're not going to do that right now. I'm going to make sure it's great to have guest speakers, but I'm going to make sure we don't have a lot, because we have a lot to do this year. We got to do the town plan, we have to finish the town zoning, which Martha's working with us on. Other business, grant updates. I did, most of us did attend the public hearing on the standalone flood and river corridor bylaws in front of the select board. Eric Alden had a suggestion, and Eric, I didn't share this with you, I don't have your email, but I could send you what Ned and Asa from the state flood specialist guys shared with me. I shared it with the selectmen today, I sent it to them right before this meeting. They said that still this .004 would still be considered zero, but they didn't have any problem with adding what you wanted added back in from Article 6 into the new standalone flood regs, but they also had one more paragraph they wanted to include if we were to add what you wanted added. And I can send that to you if you give me your email after this, what they suggested. So I sent all that to the select board, and I said, if you guys will put me on the agenda for February, I will send them both the current standalone flood and river corridor bylaws, and also send them the one with your section added, and see which one that they want to move forward with.
So it wasn't really, the point wasn't adding it because it's already there. The point was not removing it.
I know, but you didn't want to remove it from Article 6, you wanted to put it into the new regs. That's your point.
I want to make sure it stayed as part of the description.
Right, and they agreed that would be no problem, and it wouldn't affect our flood insurance or anything else.
Yeah.
But they also said this other paragraph has to go with it, so I will give you that ahead of time if you give me your email. All right, the other one, the other grant update is the electric company, and I'm trying very desperately to get on the trustees' February agenda for that, because our deadline for Green Mountain Power is March 1st. We have to, I've met with our electric guy from HP Energy, and our electric manager here over Ludlow Electric, and also the Board of the Selectmen, Brett Sanderson, because he's the electric person for Ludlow, on the head of the board. And so, is he the head of the board or the commissioner? Anyway, no, are you still with us?
He's the foreman in the field.
Okay, we already have the grant, we already have the money to put an electric charger in the Ludlow Electric parking lot with the ballast things and everything.
In this
And
parking lot?
in the Ludlow Electric parking lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I tried to get in this parking lot, that's a long story, I'm not gonna go there tonight.
That's, yeah.
Yeah,
That's not your property.
but, yeah, that was the problem. But anyway, I'm just trying to get on their agenda to get them to approve. They have to just pay 5%. Basically, the electric company's gonna cover that, because they're gonna dig the ditch from the pole to the parking lot, and they're gonna lay the wiring. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Go ahead, Ted.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you very much. It's nice to have people in the audience.